If a beautiful gift could destroy someone's future, would you still give it? If a completely normal person could predict death with just a whisper, would you believe it or ignore it? And if the house you rented already had other occupants, who is really living there? My friend was a smart and caring psychologist. One day, he came to me with a pale face and said his mind was occupied by a patient, a woman whose husband thought she was insane. He had spoken with her for several sessions and came to the conclusion that she was completely normal. But as she was leaving, she quietly said to him, "Doctor, you made a mistake. I know things you don't know." A few days later, he saw her on the street. She came close and whispered in his ear, "I'll kill him first, then you." A few months later, my friend called me, terrified. "That woman, her husband is dead, heart attack, but I know it's her doing." A week later, my friend also died in a car accident, cause of death, heart attack behind the wheel. When I went to the hospital to collect his documents, a nurse told me that woman had come by to offer condolences and said, "Now they're both dead. I'm cured." And she left. There were 4 of us: Brian, Derek, me, Kurt, and Lauren. We went on a short trip. Brian had booked a house he found online. When we arrived, the owner showed up and gave us the keys. Everything was fine, except for a locked basement. Lauren mentioned it to the owner. He said, "Don't worry, I forgot the key. I'll go get it and come back." It was around 7 or 8 in the evening. Derek and Lauren were suspicious of the house, but I ignored it. Lauren was making dinner when she suddenly screamed and said 2 people in masks were watching her. We all ran to look, but no one was there. Lauren insisted we leave, but Brian calmed her down, saying it might have been her imagination. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. 3 men entered and said, "You're squatting in this house. You need to leave." Brian told them they were mistaken and that he would call the police. Suddenly, one of the men pulled out a gun and ordered us to lie on the floor. Terrified, we obeyed. Another man went into the basement, brought out 2 bags. We had no idea what was inside, and they drove off. Lauren tried to call the police, but there was no signal on her phone. While we were still shaken, the doorbell rang again. It was the owner. We told him everything. He looked surprised and said, "3 people booked this house a week ago." It was Tuesday. I went to a shop to buy a gift for my friend Amy's daughter, who had turned 7. I wanted to give her a mirror. I found a strange but beautiful mirror and liked it. As I was about to pay, an old woman came up to me and said, "It's a nice mirror, but it doesn't bring a good future for its owner." I was surprised. She said, "It doesn't hurt to try it," and walked out. I didn't believe in such things and bought it anyway. That night, I went to a gathering and gave the mirror to Amy, since she loved mirrors. A few days passed. I was in a restaurant when a woman stared at me. A few minutes later, she left and waved at me. I realized she was the same old woman from Tuesday, but strangely, she looked younger. I didn't think much of it. Then I called Amy. Her voice sounded sad. The reason was terrifying. She said her daughter had been playing with that mirror and went toward the kitchen when suddenly a fire broke out. The little girl was 30% burnt and their dog died. Her last words were that the mirror was cursed. My name is Logan. Life messed me up so badly that I ended up as a taxi driver. But one night was enough to make me never even think about driving again. I was heading home with my niece, Blake. The road was empty. Then suddenly Blake said, "That's the Joker. Let him in." A man in a Joker costume was standing in the fog. His painted smile was glowing in the dark. His eyes didn't move. They just stared. I pulled over. "I can take you to your destination." He smiled, but no sound came from his throat. He got in and sat in silence for 10 minutes. Blake tried talking to him. No answer. Then suddenly he said, "I get off here." When he got out, he tossed a yellow envelope through the window. He said, "Read it alone." I opened the letter. The handwriting looked like fingernails scratching bone. "If Blake wasn't in the car tonight, you would be in pieces by now." I turned my head. The back seat was empty, but it smelled like a grave. Blake asked, "What's wrong, Logan?" I said, "Nothing." But I knew that joker would come back tomorrow night to finish the job.